Okay, I've got some vocal and I'm getting us started. Today is October the 11th, which is, we're still in, I believe, week 7, if I'm not mistaken, or week 6. This is week 7. And we're going to finish up the chapter 7 and contents. I'm getting started a little early here. We had a whole bunch of people here Monday, and hopefully we'll have a similar number pop in, but I am starting a little bit early. And I want to talk about some things that I've gone out and done a little curative work for. I try to act like a curator of additional material that can add to your experience in the course. And so I try to go out and find some of these things. Now, again, let's just, in terms of housekeeping, talk about what's coming up. And the first is you have, which was due tonight, was the interactive session, and I asked you to get that turned in. And then also on the 13th, which is due today, is a hands-on MIS project, and then again today a quiz over Loudon Chapter 3. So this is a virtual classroom day, and gives me a chance to do a little bit more work with you. Now, before I get to some of these resources that I've identified over here, some additional ones, and let me talk about what I did earlier. On Monday, I showed you some information about the rise of sensors and the rise of the Internet of Things. And we looked at all types of things, from sensing hurricanes to tracking devices, how sensor technology is shaping the future of cars. So I've put those types of things together. Now, one of there at the end of chapter 7 was a case study on Google, Apple, and Facebook and their struggle for the internet experience, okay? And it's an excellent case because it does bring up some points, and it does a good job of summarizing the strategy of each of those companies in terms of their approach to get your internet experience. In other words, to get you to get your business, when it boils down to, Apple, as the authors tell us there on page 297, Apple has taken the devices approach, okay, and so they feel like, if their piece of it is apps, the MP3 players, iPods, the phone, all of that, and then the mobile apps. Google, has its piece of all this has been being a search engine, okay. And now it's purchased Apple, and they talk about the fact that they're in there working on the Open Handset Alliance. And I want to take a minute just before I go any further. We'll talk about that. Let's just do a quick search over there for the Open Handset Alliance. Excuse me, and we'll take a look at that. And this is something being pushed by Google to try to get an open handset. In other words, this is like Open Office as far as productivity suites. This is a handset that is agnostic. In other words, it does not belong to any one particular company or its software. And Google is, of course, pushing this, and as they do, they know they'll be taking market share away from the other producers of iPhones. Now, we'll also go back here, and that case also talks about Google's work to get into mobile computing, and then Facebook itself has tried some new innovations. So as the case study shows us there, these different companies are utilizing some different approaches to try to get your internet experience going, or to have you use their device, their search engine, or their apps to get to the internet, i.e. the World Wide Web. And this is important because it means eyeballs, it means advertisers, it means sales, etc. And this is not much different than we had at the turn of the 20th century, really into the middle of the late 20th century, at least the first part of the 20th century, where we had the battles between the number of automobile makers. And I'm going to do something real quickly here, which I think will be instructive for us. I'm going to do a real search. I'm going to do a certain number of car makers in the United States between, I'm going to put 1920 and 2010. And let's just do that. Let's take a look at that. And here's a Springer PDF on the evolution of the automobile industry. Okay, and this is a list of defunct automobile manufacturers and when they went belly up. And this is pretty amazing, isn't it? All of these firms, I mean, they've got so many of them, they're alphabetized. And of course, if you own one of these vehicles, oh my goodness, you might be sitting on a pile of gold and not know it. But this is just incredible when you think about all these firms. They're no longer here; they're gone. Okay, they're just simply gone. How many? They've got 294 listed, apparently. So I'm assuming between that period of time, the defunct 294 are gone. Let's see how many exist today. And you can see that list has been culled considerably. Okay, there's just not that many. Okay, but well, that exist today, you can see most of them are gone. And you say, what's the point of all of this? And you say, well, what's the point? Well, here's the point. At one time, automobiles were a highly disruptive technology. They disrupted the transportation industry. People started buying cars. They quit taking trains. People fly a lot more than they ever have. But the train ridership is down, and everybody has a car. Cars, automobiles were a disruptive technology. Let's see, this is coming in here. And see, Martin, hi, good to see you. And as I started a little bit before too, so you can always roll back. But we're talking here about this case study back on page 297. What we find in most industries, okay, is that there tends to be an evolution in which there tends to be somewhere between half a dozen and a dozen companies that emerge out of a shakeup of an industry, particularly a disruptive technology. The internet is a disruptive technology, and it has changed businesses and business models. And the case at the end of chapter 7 talks about these firms. Now, 25 years ago, one could have been easily talking about, or 30 years ago, about the regional, the Reeboks, which are also known as the regional Bell operating companies. See, AT&T used to be part of Bell Telephone System. Bell Telephone, named after Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the telephone. Well, to make a long story short, those regional companies were broken apart from AT&T. That was known as the divestiture, because AT&T had the market, and this is supposed to promote competition. Well, it ended up doing that, but in a way that nobody ever perceived, and that is the growth of wireless i.e. handheld phones. And today, when you go buy a phone, you're really down to basically, most of us refer to phones in terms of their operating system. Is a Apple? Is it an Android? Another, it's kind of a Google-based. There are some other operating systems out there. There's some other foreign phones. But what we see is that the tech industry is pretty similar to just about any other industry. Is that it tends to call out and will eventually, you'll have a few winners who have 60 or 70% of the market, and then there's some others who do not. Okay, now just as we do that, let's just do a quick, I'm going to open up a tab here, and I'll put share of cell phone sales to 2016. Let's see what we can find. Apple's, this gets some data from Gartner, which is pretty good, and tells us that worldwide smartphone sales grew 3%, okay? And they give us some data on who had the greatest market share. Samsung, which is an Android, i.e. a Google kind of thing, has 24% of the market. Okay, remember these are thousands of units, but Samsung sold a lot more than 81,000 units. And then there's Apple, and there's a few others, and some of these, I think these are probably Chinese or South Korean. I'm not sure. This is from Gartner, who has pretty good data on this. And then they talk about search in terms of operating systems. Look at this: Android versus Windows versus BlackBerry versus OS is, of course, Apple. And so you can see that these firms are competing are really in a pitched battle. As I said before, this isn't any different than what happened during the first 1/3 or so of the 20th century when we had automobile makers. Okay, and as we went over and we looked, we found 294 defunct automobile companies. And I think if you look at any industry, and this is something that we know just simply is disruptive technologies come into an industry, and then things begin to shake out, and eventually you have some winners and you have some losers. And so the textbook does a good job of posing a question over there on page 297 of that case about the struggle for your internet experience. And the reason is very simple. Now, the web, now the authors use the term internet because they're really talking about internet, which is the physical backbone, and the World Wide Web. Now, when you use your phone or a computer or any device, that's a piece of the internet. When you tap on an app and you go out to, say, the ESPN app, now you're in the World Wide Web. So they're using a more inclusive term, okay? But here's the deal. The battle is really between two sets. How do I access the web and the cloud, okay? What device do I use, and what operating system do I use? And when I go out there, what content do I go to, okay? And where do I buy stuff, and where do I download music, and what app do I use to download music, and all that. So the textbook, chapter 7, talks about the infrastructure and moves us into this question of competition, okay? Now, there are many people, and I'm one of them, who think that the people who make the infrastructure or own pieces of the infrastructure are the ones ultimately who will be the winner in all of this, because no matter what happens, somebody will need a way to get to the web, and they'll need a place to arrive when they get on the web. So this is a good chapter, but this is not much different in terms of other industries. Now, just so I can add on, let me see. I see a few more people join us. Let me stop for a second and say hi. Sam is here, Shane is here, and Martin is here. Glad to see all three of you. Thank you very much for stopping by. And I'm really kind of talking, I'm doing a little bit of a lecture, if you will, about the case on page 297, Google, Apple, and Facebook struggle for your internet experience, okay? And talking about that. And, you know, we've done a little bit of work out there. And I'm just going to do this, most visited websites, because we looked at the phone, which everybody, and again, when we saw that article, it says that the number of cell phone sales around the world, or smartphones, is expanding 3.9%. 3.9% doesn't sound too heavy duty till you remember there are 7 billion people on planet Earth. So there are an enormous, just I think alone we saw that the Android-based, okay, operating system, Samsung's phone, they have nearly 8 million sales of phones. Okay, so it's not going to, you know, there's nothing there that's hard to figure out. It's just seeing that we have had things really pushed down, and the most popular websites, okay, and this is from Wired magazine. Okay, and I didn't want to just get that there. Okay, I want to get most popular. Yeah, let's put most visited. That's a better word. And this is from the World Economic Forum. And there they are, the sites that are visited the most. And they give you some qualifiers, okay? The top 10 most visited sites in the world. Well, you know, Google is everywhere. Google, now look, Google is, if you've had the data admin course, I mean, you know that Google is a search engine, and when you go to Google, you're looking at a form from which you run a query. That's all, and then you go find your stuff. Well, you of course in China they've got their own system there, but hey, who could argue with this? Google, YouTube, and then this is China. Okay, here's Wikipedia. They're just about everywhere except China. Reddit, QQ.com. I have no idea who that is. I guess those are both Asian or European. I've never even heard of them. But you can see Google has 8.6 page views per day, and the time they spend on the site, 9 minutes. Now, interesting, of course, Facebook has fewer daily page views, but more time on the site, which is why what Facebook is saying to everybody: look, we have nearly 50% more time spent on our site than even YouTube. We have viewership that sticks. Okay, and hey, what can I say? But when you talk about 8.6 daily page views, that's a bunch. And then so you could just see incredible sets of data. But obviously, Google, YouTube, and Facebook, that's where it's all happening. Now they have a nice little video graph here. It's decent, okay, and this shows you different types of sites, search engines, okay, and they talk about what we're Tumblr, what are we looking at in terms of what type of site are people visiting, okay, and it's again. This is all going to shake itself out. It's already in that process and this is again reflecting on there what's really on page 297, 298, and 299. Okay, now I want to take a little bit of time, okay, and we'll go back over here. And again, it's what we're seeing here is not too much different. Now, I want to go over to Amazon for a second, and I've got them on my toolbar, so I'm going to knock that off and I'll put on a new tab. I don't want to knock myself out of here. Now I'm going to Amazon, and I'm going to do a search for books, and I'm going to show you one book I really think it's worth seeing. This is a book written by a man, Clayton Christensen, okay? And this is the original book, okay? I bought it when it first came out, 1997, The Innovator's Dilemma. And this is a fantastic book to start to understand how innovative technologies come into an industry, into an established industry, and upend everything. And one of them is the search engine. The search engine has killed the sale of phone books. Why do I need a phone book when I can go to Google or go to Bing and or go to Yahoo and do a search for restaurants, etc. I can even go on and do a search in the online white pages for people where they live and you can pay a fee to get their address and all this type of thing. And they have phone lookup tools and all of that. Well, I really would encourage you to take a look at this book. It is, I know, it's amazing to me that this book is 20 years old, but it really did start everybody thinking about how do innovations occur. And the innovator's dilemma is, okay, once I'm here and I'm the disruptor, now what? Okay, so I think it would be very, very useful for you to go over and take a look at that. Now, I'm going to also do another search here on Amazon, all right? And disruptive, we'll do disruptive technology. And this is a book, okay, that's far more contemporary. Disruptive technologies, how to understand, evaluate, and respond to them. Here's a book on mapping and innovation. I think a very nice book. I've taken a look at it. Not too bad. Here's another. This is from a paper from McKinsey Company, their Global Institute. Disruptive, and this is interesting, talking about social media's technology and culture, and the use of disruptive social technology. Now, let me say this. This course is on management information systems. And what that really means is, how do I take different types of applications, okay, and different technologies and mix and match them and organize them so that they serve my company's purpose. And I've emphasized a lot about how do we use all these to build a company dashboard, okay, and understanding what our key performance indicators are, and then how do we use these technologies to communicate and to collaborate, okay? And that really, for me, is what this course is all about, and how do we strategize around about that. So if you're a company, and you're saying, okay, all my employees need a cell phone. Am I going to get them an iPhone, or am I going to get them a Samsung? Well, that depends upon what you plan to do. Should I give everybody an iPad? Early on in the university, this is about 7 or 8 years ago, gave all the faculty an iPad. I still have an iPad, and I use it for certain things. Some faculty use an iPad exclusively. Then the university supplied us, if we wanted an Apple or a Dell, and we use them exclusively. And I use my the Dell computer the school gave me. It's about 6 or 7 years old. I use it for all kinds of things at work. I keep it here at home, but you know, I use my home for an office, and so I kind of feel like the university's getting a good deal because I work out of a home office here as well as working in Shawnee. And doing so allows me to do some things to give the school visibility up here, where I can go up and work with a church, or go over and work with some entity, or go visit some students or something like that. And I'm in Oklahoma City, and I'm close, and so I have a presence here, as well as we have, of course, the graduate school has its headquarters up in the Baptist General Convention building up on May and 36th. So there's a lot in that case at the end of the chapter, okay, that talked about that, the issue of these big companies squaring off. And so what that means is it trickles down to the rest of us. It's what are we going to consume? Now I've got some so I would encourage you to take a look at these books and think about them and see when you hear me say, okay, when you hear me say a spreadsheet is a business model, okay, or works like a business model, a database works like a business model, take that to heart. A spreadsheet it helps us build a business model, or it really serves as one, by providing us the ability to take, you know, a set of cash flows, for example, a cash flow statements, and extrapolate them out, and say, okay, here's what, if we do this or that, here's what it will look like. And if you've taken or are taking management science with me, you see us do that every single 2 to 3 times a week, where we take some management problem, find a model out there in the world, apply it, and we do optimization. So a spreadsheet can help us do optimization, which is a business model, okay? A database is a business model. And you know, Amazon's living proof of that. Turner Classic Movies, one of my favorite companies of all time, I think, and they use they're a database model, because you come over there and you're looking, they're creating some new content, but it's more like they offer a curated content that is, you know, they pick and choose the movies I want that I will see, I can learn about it, etc. So the chapter 7 ends with these companies who are fighting through the internet experience. And what does it mean? What does it mean when you know, and I've often wondered, and I'll you know, I'm always interested to hear from you in terms of what is your experience like when you sat in the lab, and maybe you've come into the lab and had class in there, versus maybe you're viewing this on your phone right now, or some of you will look at this on your phone later. Some of you might look at it on your iPad or a tablet later. There will be some of you who will look at this on your laptop. And so knowing that, okay, how do I best adapt things? Now, some of the courses that are quantitative, where I have spreadsheets and access and all that, that really becomes an issue, because if people don't own a machine that, for example, has access, then they've got to use the lab. But I know you all come into this with different types of devices, etc. So things are going to look and sound very differently. And I've toyed with the notion of and I'll throw it out here, is when you go through this course, here's my suggestion: have the book, okay, have your phone, and listen to the lecture, all right. And if we're doing something like manipulating data, if you're in a class where I'm doing a case study, it might not be a bad idea to have that file and open and follow along, or at the very least, well, that's why I do those demonstrations, so you can see them. It's not a lot different then if you go out to YouTube, for example, and you go out and you find, how do I freeze a row or a column so I can create a scrolling effect in Excel? Yeah, you go out there, you'll find it. You can find every function that one could use out there. And so again, that's a disruptive technology. I'm about to, and I'm going to show you one of them right here. And this is for you this week. I have some TED guest speakers for you. Now, let me open this up for a moment. Okay. Now, what I'd like you to do, please, is download this. Okay. And then go to the link. All right. We can't broadcast out of here directly. Okay. So, for fair use, I want you to download the document, then click the link. Now, this first one is 5,000, what are the next 5,000 days on the internet? There's another here about how technology evolves. And then there's one I think is really interesting, is the anthropology of mobile phones. So there's about 35, 40 minutes, maybe more of files. You say, well, how is this disruptive? Well, look, do you know how much money we'd have to spend at OBU for me to pay these people to come in and speak to us after they've been on TED? We'd have to fly them in, feed them, keep them here. We'd probably have to run around campus, let them speak at 2 or 3 places. Lord knows what they'd ask for a speaker's fee. But because TED has great advertisers and TED has great people who fund them, and because these people want the exposure so they can go speak at places where people will pay them big fees, there they are. So I have guest speakers, the best in the world, for zilch. I just put it in a Word document, copy them, and go. All right. And that's why I say all the time, if there's something we do say, and when those of you who have business problem analysis, I steer you. I tell everybody, hey, go over to YouTube and take a look, and you're going to find there is anything and everything that you could learn about Excel, about Access. Microsoft Office has its own help. So to a certain extent, those technologies have kind of disrupted me. Now I'll show you another one. Okay. And I always have students, listen, I never, ever, ever underestimate your intelligence. I never, ever, ever underestimate that you want to learn and that you want to grow as people and you want to grow as professionals. And I know when I say to you that you're going into the most competitive workplace in the history of the world, that you kind of understand it, but you don't really, because you haven't been out there. Okay. But the students I have who have, and as I deal and I work with employers, okay, and I hear what they have to say, and as I read the literature, I know that you're out there, and it's highly competitive, and especially if you work in some fields, it's ultra competitive. Let me give you an example, just a quick one. Before I came here to OBU, I worked for a university called North Central University. We were accredited by the Higher Learning Commission, same people that accredit OBU. We ran primarily doctoral programs. It's called North Central University. It was located in Prescott, Arizona. It was a very beautiful part of Arizona. And I was there 3 years. I was basically the dean of the business college. Now, the university was privately owned, okay? It was owned by a man and his family, and he was grooming it and building it so he could sell it. Well, to make a long story short, because we had primarily doctoral students, PhD students, every PhD student who writes a dissertation, and they have to have a committee. So we'd have a committee of people, and we'd always make sure we had one person who was not part of our faculty, okay? Now, when I started there, we had about 1,500 students in business. When I left, we had about, I think, more around about 3,000 or 4,000 students in the School of Business. 4,000, all online, all virtual, and 95% of them were getting a doctorate. Well, to make a long story short, these are students who were from all over the world. Okay, they weren't just U.S. based, and I would have what we called an outside member, and these would be people who were experts in the field on that topic, typically. And I'd have people on our committee from Oxford, Cambridge, the finest universities in Asia, the best university, on the continent, MIT, Georgia Tech. And there's no way I could convince all those people to move to Prescott, Arizona, no matter how pretty it is. Okay. But through the internet, I was able to leverage them. Well, the rest is history. You got schools out there now like Liberty University that has, you're in South Florida. Liberty University has about 70,000 students online. 70,000. They have another 15 to 20,000 who go to their home campus. They're in Lynchburg, Virginia. That's how the internet changes everything and how it's disrupted, the industry I'm in, because students have choices. And, I hate to tell you that, but they do. And, hopefully you're getting a good blend of the best of a small college atmosphere with hopefully the best of an online learning experience. Hopefully you're getting the best of both worlds. Well, that being said, okay, I think you get my drift. Now, I've got some resources here for you that I definitely want you to take a look at. And again, we talked about the rise of the smart city, hurricane sensing, and all that business. Now I've got, again, some more resources for you, and then another 30 or 40 minutes of TED Talks, guest speakers, and it's my expectation that you'll go over and you'll listen to 2 of the 3 of them. Now, I don't give you a quiz on them, but let me say this. You can also, if you wish, go over there and get a transcript, and you can read the transcript a lot faster than you could listen to the talk. And frankly, you can also put it on closed caption. So if you want to have some privacy while you listen, you don't want to have the thing blaring out in the middle of the room or something. And you can scroll forward and scroll back just like you can with me, and so you can hit what you think are the highlights. But these are the finest minds out there, okay? And here is a good example of the internet, okay, and using it and wireless technologies. Well, I wanted to take a couple of minutes also, okay, to one of the exercises I started to assign to you, but I didn't do it, is over on page 295. And I didn't have you do this, but there's a piece of me that says, and this is project 710, and that's at the bottom of page 295, and the rest is on page 296. And this is using a spreadsheet to evaluate wireless services. Now, I would say that's a good exercise. I started to incorporate it, but then I just didn't, because I had some other things I wanted you to cover. But when you get out there and you start looking for that, you're going to see, there's some real choices that you have in terms of wireless services. And let's just do a quick search. The top wireless phone services, top wireless phone companies. Let's just do that. Who are they? And okay, top 5 cell phone companies. Okay, who are they? All right, and we'll click on them. We'll take a look. Okay, and number 1 is Sprint. And let me say this: I'm a proud member of Sprint. I've had the same data plan with them for nearly 15 years, and I love them. My data plan is reasonable. It's incredibly cheap, and they know I won't change no matter how much when I cough up, the money to get a new cell phone every 4 years. But my data plan is cheap. Number one is Sprint. This is Oklahoma City. Number two is Verizon. 3 is T-Mobile. 4 is AT&T. There's Cricket, an interesting little company. And then they've got some news for each of these people. Okay, and maybe some of this I think may be generational. I don't know. Okay, but I stick with. I like Sprint. I've had them, and why would I change? If I'm happy with them, I would have no reason to change. But these are the top wireless. Of course, they're after me already to try to get me to do something. And then here are the top rated wireless phones. Okay, and there they are. And you could see them, and again, I wish now that I'd had you do that, but I didn't. Okay, and again, it's one of these things you just have to be thinking your way through the process. But I should have done it, but I didn't. Now, as I looked through the textbook, I also wanted to make sure, okay, that you understood that the figure 716 over on page 292, okay, and they're showing you a wireless sensor network. And so you have all these sensors that shoot data over to a server, and then that's shot out to the internet. Now, we have no idea right now how that's going to change things. But let me give you just a quick example, okay, of this. Now, in home security, the internet has changed everything. It used to be with home security, you'd use something like ADT, and you would wire ADT into the phone system. Okay, or it'd have its own phone it'd have its own phone modem that was hooked into your phone, and so when ADT, an alarm would go to them immediately at their place of business. Today, you've got these things that you mount them on your house or outside. You download the software to your cell phone, and you're good to go. That's a very disruptive technology, and it's changed everything. So that figure there tells you, and the question becomes is how creatively do we use that technology? Okay, but again, that's important, just simply so that you see what's coming, and you understand that we're really at a place now, okay, and this has happened in my lifetime, where nobody's offline, everybody's online. You'll hear me say that many, many, many times. Everybody is always online. Okay, and I want to take you just through some of these resources that I got here for you. These is the Frightful Five. The Frightful Five, excuse me, want to rule entertainment. They are hitting limits. Okay, now. And this is an article from the that's a cute little GIF, isn't it? This is from the New York Times. Okay, and here's another article. Text Frightful Five. They've got us. And he talks about Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, and Alphabet, which is Google's parent company, and they're now the world's five most valuable companies. You talk about the author talks about the rise of these companies, okay, and the kind of power that they wield, and how they just think about this. Well, let me stop for a minute and let me give you some historical perspective, okay. During the 1960s, our country experienced enormous racial tensions. okay? And there were riots all over the United States, and there are a variety of, some of it was the Vietnam War, a lot of it was the civil rights movement. And if you take the civil rights movement, for example, when that really hit the consciousness of the American public was when there were photographs taken and sent to the nightly news people, which at that time were ABC, NBC, and CBS, showing videos showing the police and the state troopers there in hosing people down, turning dogs on people. And that changed the whole public. The same thing happened in the Vietnam War. It was the first televised war, and when people started seeing those images, they started changing. Think about how cell phones and the ability to record right on the spot and upload stuff right on the spot has changed things. It's changed history. During what people call the Arab Spring, these folks in these countries like Libya, Tunisia, Syria, and Turkey, the whole Middle East, Egypt, they had just these social media platforms. They had Facebook, they had Twitter, and people, they'd put a Facebook post, we're all going to meet here, and thousands of people would meet. And they'd send videos and upload them. And those social media were really part of all of that. Social media have completely disrupted politics. They've changed politics forever. Okay, and so again, it's just one of those things that you see that's imperative. The question is how do we as a business handle this, and how do we as a business understand and work with? As I've said before, social media are solutions waiting for a problem. Now I have some other resources I want to show you while we're at it here, so we'll pop back over. Okay, and this is, I think, is interesting. This is Digital Life in 2025, and this chapter talks about the internet, and really they mean the World Wide Web and the internet. This is from the Pew Research Center, and great spot in terms of all key kinds of things that people are interested in. And here's Digital Life in 2025, and let's say the internet will become become like electricity. Okay, you and I take it for granted that there are plugins, that we have electricity, that we have a grid. We don't even think about that, okay? But I remember growing up that my parents, every time that we knew that it was going to be storming, my mother would say, oh no, electricity's going to go out. I hope they come out and get the poles back up. If not, we'll be without electricity. And I remember my parents, had a big freezer and a big refrigerator out in the garage, and so that my mom got really concerned. So my dad went and bought a small, for that time, little generator, gas, and he kept gas back there. And when the lights would go off from storms and it could be off 2 or 3 days. Boom, we'd have electricity. But you and I take that for granted. We take wireless phones for granted. This has just all changed. But the whole idea is that, as I said before, there is no real offline anymore. When your phone's there with you, you're online. And so we just expect it to work. And so, if I'm at school or anywhere and I don't have broadband, I'm going, what's wrong with these people? Well, this is an interesting article, okay? And it talks about 15 ways that it's going to change. Okay, and he talks some that are more hopeful, and what this will look like in about 10 years. And it probably will look nothing like that, but it's interesting stuff to read and to see. I've got some other resources I wanted to share with you, and I'll pop back over here, okay? And this one is Facebook search. Now, I found it interesting that as we are messing around, okay, with this, that that we are seeing this social platform, okay, also incorporate a search engine. So just like Amazon has a search engine, Facebook has a search engine. Now, why? Well, is it because the people at Facebook love us and want us to have a great experience? Well, maybe there's some of that. I'll tell you what else all is they want you to spend time with them. And they want you to do a search, so they begin to call the kinds of data that Google gets. Okay, so here's a Google-like feature in Facebook. Now, Google has tried just a reverse of creating Google Rooms and Google Docs, and you can collaborate, but they just don't have that. It's just not had that same effect because Google's a search engine. But here is a social media site incorporating a search engine. Twitter did the same thing with Twitter Moments. So let me go back over here for a minute, and if I'm not mistaken, I think that's what it's called. I think it's called Twitter. Yeah, here it is today. Twitter Moments. Okay. They say, what? What? What's this all about? Well, look, there are hundreds of millions of tweets every day. And there are some people who say, hey, take it easy for me. I want somebody to give me what's the latest tweet? Okay. And what's out there for us to find out what's on Twitter. Well, this is Twitter moving from being a messaging service to becoming a news service. You can thank the President of the United States, okay, for doing a lot of that because he is the master of Twitter. It's amazing to me to watch these news programs full of media savvy people who are not of your generation, who are just befuddled by his use of Twitter, okay? And I think all of you out there at your generation, you get it. He does, and he's 70 years old. So, and it's amazing to me. He'll tweet, and the whole conversation on CNN, they'll be talking about the latest tweet when there's maybe other stuff that'll be talking about. Well, Twitter Moments, there you go. There you go. And you can just see, okay? And of course, I'm not going to create a new moment or anything, but you can see today, news, sports, audio. Yeah. So Twitter is, what are they doing? They're creating their own little page. Isn't that interesting? Now, here they're trying to morph, and they're hoping that with Twitter Moments, people my age have trouble dealing with Twitter because I don't know how many followers I have, and I follow hundreds of people and sites, and it's just the stream's going. You can get, and I know all of you follow it, okay? But a lot of my friends my age, I can't deal with Twitter, I can't take it. And for me, it kind of just, it was, oh, okay, I guess, and I'd have to just search, and I'd see replies and likes and all of this. And so Twitter Moments is intended to be for people who want all that. What's trending today? What's the top stuff that everybody's talking about? Why? Because they want your service. They want your eyeballs. It's that simple. Well, here's another, and again, this is another interesting, as we talk about these companies and their moves. And again, Chapter 6 talks about the business intelligence and the dashboard. Chapter 7 talks about the infrastructure, the physical stuff that makes that happen. And then they end the chapter by talking about and giving us some cases dealing with these cases using software to evaluate in the hands-on projects to evaluate wireless services, and then a case that interestingly ends with this struggle for your internet experience. And they say, why? Well, because the authors of our author, Loudon, understood you're not going to get it about how these firms are jockeying around till you see how everything's put together. Okay, and here's Facebook has decided to go for 1 billion virtual reality users. Okay, and so he's cut the price of his Oculus Go. Okay, and this is again, this is they tallied 100 million downloads of apps. He wants 1 billion people into virtual reality. Why? Well, if you're looking at his stuff, you're not looking at anybody else's. You're over there on Facebook, you go, whoa, or you have your Facebook virtual reality thing, and you go, man, and boy, just think about people, posting their stuff on Facebook, what that will be. And again, he's wanting to, get your internet experience going. And so it's an interesting article. And then here we see Facebook, which is a social media platform, is into virtual reality. Now, here's a resource I'd like you to take a look at, okay? And this is on which streamer is the best. Okay? Now, I own a Google Chrome, and I cast. I could go right in right now. I could, and there's my Chromecast right here. And I could display this on another screen or on my TV. And so you've got these 3, Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV Stick, and Apple TV. You'll note we have Apple TV in the labs and in the classrooms. I am a Google Chrome freak. I cast so much stuff to my TV, it's not even funny. And all I did is it was one of the best Christmas gifts I've ever got. My mother-in-law bought the thing for $35. I plug it into the HDMI of my TV. I download the app into the browser, and boom, I can stream movies or any content that I want to over into my regular TV or any other device I care to. Well, why did Google divide that? Did Google set that up? And all it is a router. It's just a small router is really what it is. And why? Because Google loves me, wants me to enjoy all my old movies? No, Google wants me to use it because if I'm watching through Chrome, okay, they've got my eyeballs. Even if I'm looking at somebody else's content, okay, because my cable provider knows I use Chrome. They know what I watch from Chrome. And so Google can come back and say, look, you Cox Cable, Keith Harmon's not watching so-and-so at 10:30 at night of all these 300. He's streaming movies. Okay? So, and there's 5,000 other people like him in Oklahoma City or whatever. So you could see how that, and we're just kind of this point where screens will be screens. Now, I forget the name of the place. It's over there at the mall there, and over off of it's not Coil Springs. It's Penn Square Mall, and they have one of those stores, really exclusive gifts, electronics, and I blew my mind one day. I walked over there, and they have a little adapter that you can plug into your phone, and it will pop up a screen that's like 10 by 8 or something like this. Okay, and let me find the name of that place. That makes me crazy. Penn Square Mall, and it's a gift shop. And here's the clip, and I'll know it as soon as I see it. Okay, the stores, and I'm going to find them here in a minute. So let me do a look through here. Now here's their, boy, they've got deals going on here. Of course, the Apple Store's out there. And I probably should have just done a search. But like an idiot, I didn't. They have a Microsoft store out there as well. That's interesting to see. And boy, when they opened up, that was just a humongous place. And some of my favorites like Sonoma. And all right, now I'm going to go over here and let's see. Filter on it. Electronics and technology. No, it's not. It's well, they must be gone, or I'm looking at category. Let's look at Well, I'm gonna have to think about that. There's my short-term memory is gone. Okay, but they have well, we'll just do it. We'll just do a search quickly. And these are screen projectors. Screen projector for fun. Okay, and they have some. This is the smartphone projector. It's $25. Okay, and yeah, you can go ahead and have what's on your phone, and boom, throw it up there. This is 70. This is Brookstone. That's the name of the place, Brookstone. Oh my goodness, Earth to me. Brookstone, and they're out at the Penn Square Mall. Now here's the micro projector, and they show you the kind of imaging you can put up there, and it's amazing to me. So you hook this into your cell phone, and boom. Now the price of these, this is amazing. This smartphone, the white. This thing is $25, okay? And there it is. It's got $25. It looks like it's, they've got a nice little video for it, you know? Hey, so, you know, you decide to watch a movie, you do it on your smartphone, okay? Well, you got some other, other resources I want to let you know about, and then we'll pretty much call it a day. Here's an interesting article, and this is Disney company that has bought out a firm that does streaming of content, okay? And one of the most significant things that's happened in entertainment, I think, other than the digital revolution in music and all the ways to download and upload and play music digitally, okay, is streaming content. It's incredible to me that I can go to Hulu and I can get about anything. Now, we're Cox customers. We have Cox on demand. So every single big shoot 'em up monsters, a vampire movie that you guys go pay $40 for, I get it, okay? I pay $3 extra a month so I can see any of that stuff. So if it comes out, most of it, they got a bunch of cussing and the dirty stuff. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to see that stuff. But there's occasionally something that's kind of fun to see, okay? And, you know, that would be a good movie. And I could watch it. For my wife and myself, though, the on-demand feature through Cox is we get to see a lot of stuff. And so we can, my wife is a Big Bang Theory freak, loves that. So she'll binge watch the shows and I do a little bit too. And we'll binge watch some stuff from HBO, documentaries, sports, things like that. And again, this is my cable company saying, okay, we'll stream, and they'll, as the older stuff gets older, it transitions out of, you pay $6 to watch it any time through the day to nothing. Okay. And on top of that is, I told my wife the other night, I said, how did I live without being able, our talks, we can record 6 things at once. How did I live without being able to record 6 things at once? I've got so much stuff. I might get, if I break my leg over the holiday, like I smashed my ankle up 2 years ago, right before the summer, I might get 2 weeks where I sit and do nothing and watch everything. So Disney, again, a content provider, is into this. Now, originally Disney was an animator. And let me recommend that you go over and if you want to see the evolution of a company, go. I think there's it's a documentary on PBS. This is another thing that blows my mind. I can go and see anything on PBS that they have because I'm a Cox member and through the OETA. So Disney is simply buying a company that does streaming. They're not trying to go, okay, let's hire a bunch of people over and figure out how to do it. We just hire people to do it and plug them in. And then this is the crowded TV marketplace, okay? And they're talking about that, the 3 tech giants, okay? And this is going to be interesting to see how all this shakes out. Here's Apple, and they've got their own way of getting you eyeballs, and then Facebook and Google, okay? And you have this. The article walks you through all of the ways that the traditional networks plus these tech companies are all kind of lining themselves up, okay, to get you to watch them. All right. Now, if you look, and let me give you a good example. I've talked about this some before. Late night TV. Okay, they now really are focused on YouTube moments, stuff they can post, snippets. And on a given night, the current late night shows on the traditional networks do not even come close to the number of people that watched Johnny Carson. And you've just heard he's a name from history to you, which was at any given time. So there's a really interesting article here, covers a lot of stuff. Well, folks, I started about 5 or 6 minutes early, and we even see MTV's getting us. I mean, this is just, watching this all unfold is just incredible because you see content companies like Disney who are trying to get into to stream their content. Then you see content companies like HBO who are now streaming content, and everybody wants you to be able to watch them on their phone, watch them on your TV, watch on your computer. We have a Fox Sports Go, okay, and through our cable, and we can watch any game we want to. And I can tell you, it's when I drive home, and especially after an evening class, during the early start of the fall semester or the end of the spring semester, and I go to Sirius XM, and I can go listen to the Cardinals or the Yankees baseball game through Sirius. It absolutely, totally, I have to stop and go, I remember when I was a kid that I might get to see them play once or twice an entire season because they always had a game of the week. Now it's everybody, okay? And to give you an example of this, as I watch these sports now, and what I'm seeing now is more and more of, like, particularly college football, they will recycle, they'll replay games that were played that weekend, which tells me, that there's a hunger for that content or to fill it. Well, these are things that are going to affect your business because you're either selling advertising or doing advertising, or you're a supplier for one of these people. Who knows? But one way or the other, all of these infrastructure and then these disruptive technologies and the competition among these firms will be visited upon you either personally or in your business in one way or the other. Well, I appreciate you staying aboard, all of you. God bless you. You're good students, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you've done in terms of your case studies and your responses to the hands-on project. And I think that you see that we're in a real period, a flux period, and over the next 10, 15 years, over the next 20 years, how you view things and see things, how you advertise. So those of you who are if you're marketing students, you really need to have your head and your eyes and ears open in this course, because this is all changing, okay? And I'm going to give you a very quick example, and I'll shut up, to show you how much things have changed. When I came here in 2006 to teach at OBU, I sat down in a faculty meeting. I said, you know, why don't we offer a course in e-commerce? Or why don't we offer a course in internet marketing? And you would have thought I said, why don't we have a course on how to praise Satan? People came unglued. They got upset. Well, yesterday, I sat with our new marketing professor, okay? They're in a faculty meeting, and we talked about a digital media program of some kind, or linking up the people in the art department, having them in a marketing, offering a digital and internet marketing course. And it was just like we were talking about, let's offer accounting or management course. Well, nobody blew a gasket. Nobody said, we can't do that. It was none of that. And I thought, my, how times have changed. Okay. Well, times do, don't they? Thank you so much for being with me today. God bless you. If you visited and you stopped in a class real time, thank you so much. Those of you who are here, those of you who watch, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to seeing your work. Have a wonderful weekend. Take it easy. Be careful. God bless you. And I will see all of you next Monday. So I'm going to stop the share, then the recording, and we'll be done.